Okay guys, this is a tutorial on how to do keying in After Effects. So I just booted up After Effects. I've got a blank um, file at the minute. I don't have anything imported. All the stuff that I use in this tutorial is up on Learning Zone. It's in this folder called Intro to Keying. Okay, so in here I've given you just a range of different folders, and you can just work your way through them one at a time, just depending on how comfortable you feel. So there's a close-up plate, which is a PNG sequence, which is the shot that we're going to be working on first. There's a fabric plate of someone with more fabric on them, so it's slightly transparent as well, so that's a bit more of a kind of a medium difficulty. Then we've got a similar fabric plate, but it's shot from a mid shot. And then for anyone that kind of feels more comfortable doing it and they want to push themselves a bit further, we've got a smoke plate as well, okay, which is just a smoke effect just shot on a green screen background as well. This one's slightly harder to key out because you need to use some masks, so you should be able to work your way up that. Inside here as well, I've got a folder called backgrounds, which will be full of kind of just different JPEG images that you can use as your background just to sit behind it. Okay, so when you do go to your final shots, you might want to use After Effects to make a composite of maybe some live action footage, or maybe you might want to make something in Maya and export it out as a 3D model or as a JPEG or a PNG sequence. But just for today, we're going to use still images, and we're going to work our way up to use more kind of detailed composites as well. Okay, all this footage is actually from the following website, which is HollywoodCameraWork.us. So they've got some really nice stuff on there where you can actually download just plates for you to practice. Okay, and they're free to use. Some of them are for match moving, which is for making like 3D backgrounds and stuff like that. But other ones are just for you to practice basically doing your keying. So these are them here. Okay. All right. So first things first is we want to import in our footage. So you just go to File, Import, and then choose File. So you find your way to the Intro to Keying folder, so you can extract on your hard drive. So what these all are is these are PNG sequences, which means similar to the stuff we did in Maya, they're numbered 1 the whole way up to the end of the sequence. So this sequence should be 79 frames long. When you click on the first one, you'll notice there's a little option down the bottom here to import a PNG sequence. That means After Effects will go through the numbers, starting at 0 the whole way up, and it'll bring it all in and put it together like its own little kind of package, so it's like a video. So we just hit open for that. Then it appears here. Okay, so you notice it's got file 0 the whole way to 79. So next thing I'm going to import in is I've just got like a background. I'm just using like a forest background for this one. But you can choose one of the ones that I've given you, or you can download your own. Okay. So we've got our PNG sequence, and we just got our forest background, and that could be anything really. So what we want to do now is we're going to make a new composition. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. You can click and drag this onto the composition window, and that'll make one for you. But what I want you to do today is make your own. Okay, so composition, new composition. We're going to use one of the presets. Okay, so we're going to use HDTV 1080, and we want to run at 24 frames a second, which is more of a European standard. Okay, so at the beginning of this lesson, I probably got you to calculate how long your sequence should be. I'm going to leave it at 24 frames a second. I'm going to leave it at 2.20 seconds, which should be the equivalent of 79 frames. I'm just going to hit OK. Okay, so there's a composition. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to drag the forest background in there. We want to scale this first because it's actually a very large image. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can scale it using the handles here. And remember, if you hold shift, you'll lock it into its own aspect kind of ratio. So, or down here, we can go into the options, underneath transform, and then you've got your scale. Okay. So all we're going to do is just get it roughly right. It doesn't really matter too much because today's more about using the keying technology. So that looks okay. And then what we're going to do now is we're just going to bring that sequence in on top. Okay, so just going to drop it down here. Okay, so that's what we've got. So the sequence should be around the right size. It should be fine. So it's just like a 2-second sequence of just this person doing like a little tiny bit of movement. Okay. So if I do a RAM preview, just while it's loading, this will just play through, and we just see. Now the reason I've chosen this piece of footage is it gives you a little practice dealing with hair, and keying out hair can sometimes be very difficult. So it's something to just pay attention to whenever you're shooting your own films, is you might want to be careful when you're using hair. So that's what this sequence is. A couple of seconds, just like character moving. Okay. Alright, so what we want to do now is we want to apply the keying technology. Before we do that, what we're working on here at the minute is 8 bits per channel. Okay. So that means for every color we've got 8 bits of information. Now some of our keyers work in different levels, so they don't all use 8 bits. Some of them work better in 16, some of them work better in 32. Okay. The keyer that we're using today is designed for 32. Okay, so if we want to change this, if we hold down Alt and click on it, we can up the bits per channel that we're working with. Okay. All the way down is we click, it'll bring up the project settings, and we can actually change it there. Okay, so we're just going to leave that at 32. And whenever you're out shooting with the cameras in the media center, this will make a lot more sense. And you'll end up covering some of this stuff with mic as well. So dead easy. What we're going to do now, the key is we just go to Effect. Sorry, make sure we're clicked on there. Effect. You've got a little section called Keying, and these are the different types that you can use. So the one that we're going to use is actually called Key Light. So just click on that, and here's the options that open up. Okay. So a lot of these we're going to go into a lot more detail later on in the unit, but for now the only one that matters is the screen color. So basically what the key light is asking us is what color do we want to get rid of. Click on the eyedropper, and we just click on the green. Okay. What key light's done now is it's gone through, it's looked at all those green pixels, and it's found pixels very similar to it, and just removed them. It's made them transparent, so it's created like a matte. And because it's a piece of video footage, every frame it's done the same thing for. So as you scrub through, you should see that all the green pixels are gone. It works the same for blue as well, so if we did shoot this on blue screen instead, we could change that. So this is looking not too bad. If we can zoom way in and we can get a look around, so if we use H on the keyboard, we can actually move around and take a look. And it's actually done like a fairly good job of getting rid of a lot of the green. One of the reasons for that is the piece of green screen footage is very evenly lit. Okay, so that leaves us with like some really good results. If you ever kind of badly light it, you might run into some issues. Okay. So if we look, there's our source. So it's very even balance on here, so it's very easy to key out. And we can change it to look at our final result. Okay. So if you flick the status, what you can look at is you can actually look at how it's doing, how it's processing this information. Okay, so it ranges from black the whole way to white, so it works a lot like a layer mask in Photoshop. So this is going through and it's kind of showing us the color that I clicked on. These are the ones that it's actually pulling out, and it's really getting rid of all of them. So we can adjust these later on. So you notice if I change the clip black, straight away it's going through and it's pulling a lot more information out. If I go back into my final result, we don't really notice it as much. But it's cleaned up a lot of extra stuff, a lot of little bits of noise that were in the original composition. Okay. But for now, for us, this is fine. Okay, so this is looking okay. If you ever want to get rid of your keying, then you can go back in and you can just click underneath the layer. You can work your way down and just bin it as well. So it's actually fairly easy to get rid of. All I'm going to do here is just reset my workspace, just so I can get back into my tool options. So down here, just in your effects, there's your key light, and you can get rid of it, and I'll just bin it. So the minute this shot looks okay, but it doesn't really look like it's been filmed properly. If we shot this with a real camera, not everything would be very sharp and in focus. So what we're going to do is we're just going to apply a slight blur to the background. I'm just going to take a look at how it looks then. So just for the purpose of the shot, I'm just going to click and move this piece of footage over. Okay, so this is still a layer. We can animate it as normal. We could have this character sliding in. We could have them appearing. We could change the opacity over time. So for anyone that finds the key in easy enough, you might want to go into a bit more detail. Just experiment with it. So what we're going to do is click on the forest background. So at the minute it's very sharp, and the forest background is actually sharper than this character, which is in the foreground. So we want to go to Effect. We're going to go to Blur and Sharpen, and we're just going to put in what's called a Gaussian blur. So as soon as we click on that, your options will appear up here. Your options will also appear underneath the layer as well. Okay, so don't forget, if you ever can't find your way back in, that's how you get into all your settings. And what we're going to do is we're just going to experiment with this, and we're just going to turn it up a bit. So that's us up to about 7. So about 13. So that's looking a bit better. Okay. We can go up further if we want. So that's giving us a nicer result. Okay. So now if we preview this composition, preview, RAM preview, might just take a while to load because it's having to load through all those shots, all those individual frames that it's keyed out. So there's a lot of information kind of going through the system. Okay, so if we preview the first second or so, you can see that's looking actually pretty smooth. We don't have that much. We haven't lost a lot of detail on the hair. Okay, so that's just a quick introduction to it. What we're going to do anyway over the next couple of weeks after Easter and stuff, we're just going to go out and film our own footage, and we're going to slowly build up.